Welcome to a special edition of JMC Live. It is 10:08 p.m. on October 27th, 2010. We have a special interview we want to do tonight. We have Ally Tower, who comes from a interesting spiritual walk background where she was saved at a younger age and then was introduced to the Witchcraft Wiccan lifestyle. And she's been in a heated battle over her soul, apparently, because even though she became saved, the devil still wanted to attack her. And that was an involvement for over 12 years, I see, through her bio. And now, God has somehow miraculously brought her out. And she wants to share her story of how she got saved, what was the enticement, the allurement to be interested in the Wiccan witchcraft lifestyle, and to actually explain what truly a Wiccan really is, and what a Christian really is, and that there are actually people that may be attending your church that are trying to find a true path, the true path to Jesus. So, Ally, I'd like to thank you for coming today, and I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here. It's exciting to share the awesome power of God's love and how it completely transforms your life, and I'm really excited about it. I want to start out with, I was a Christian, a believer who had a personal relationship with the Lord, had been in a walk with God for a while, and the only thing that I wanted to do was glorify God in my life personally, in my marriage, and family life. I wanted nothing more than His name to be lifted up and glorified. Unfortunately, it wasn't exactly working out like I had planned, and life was full of a lot of struggles. We had a lot of financial problems, and the marriage was failing. It was getting to a point where, it was really bad. We had been to counseling. We had, with the pastor and his wife, and I had been praying to God for a couple of years, really, to try and bring some kind of resolution into our family life. But it was kind of functioning and wasn't working. It seemed like God wasn't answering my prayers. And no matter how much I tried, praying, fasting, seeking Him in the situation, it just continued to get worse. It could possibly get worse. It kept going spiraling downhill. It came to a point where I was just completely devastated and really very depressed and upset about the whole situation. I began to doubt the Word of God, that it was relevant for me in my life. And I think that that's something to take note of, because just like in the Garden of Eden, when Eve doubted the Word that God had given to Adam, it was the downfall of mankind by doubting His Word. And it was the same for my life. I can, personally, it was at that point when I began to doubt His Word in my life that I started to fall downward too. Doubt led to unbelief. And once unbelief took hold, it was very easy for the things, outside of God to come and be a part of my life, because there were no longer the warning signals, the red flags that would go up. I didn't believe what the Bible said anymore. I didn't believe, all those things that I had learned about, in church and through counseling. I just didn't believe it anymore. So it allowed me to open myself up into a realm and a way of life that in times before I would have, certainly avoided. What happened was I picked up a book that was in my house. It was actually a Christian book. Had been there for years. I had no interest in it before. About a guy who had been involved in witchcraft, and he became a Christian. And it was supposed to be, like a testimonial. Later, that book was, I believe, disproved, unfortunately. But at the time, it set me on a search, because I was already doubting God. I already didn't believe. And I was searching. I was looking for something to change my circumstances in my life, because I was really very upset and unhappy with the way things were going. So I went to the library and I read every book I possibly could get a hold of on witchcraft. And in the midst of all that, I found Wicca, and it was a nature-based religion that was, having to do with harmony with the earth and people and animals and love and tranquility and peace, and that's what I was seeking, because my house was a complete havoc, and I wanted harmony in my life. So it was very attracting to me to find something that I could hold on to that was about harmony and peace. The other thing was that it had to do with taking control of my life, because I felt sort of out of control. And my circumstances being as they were, I felt like I had no control. I was kind of just stuck in the situation that I was, and very unhappy about it, that I wanted to be able to change the things in my life that I felt needed to be changed. So it was about, taking hold and grabbing a hold and having control and making a change in the areas that I felt were desperately needed in my life. So that was the beginning that led into my search. I went from just basically reading and studying and finding out about witchcraft and Wicca to starting to participate in the actual practice of it. I began to learn what magic was and how to work magic. It became a way of life. It wasn't just, magic became a part of me, became a way of living. It was something that I did every day. And I was into, the practice of divination and, prophecy for things in the future, again, geared towards a happier, life and having control and taking some charge in my life so that it didn't continue on the way that it was. So it had a lot to do with control, and it had a lot to do with just trying to get peace and harmony and get along with everyone in a better way. I went from practicing solitary for a while and learning more in that way to eventually being part of the Coven, and I was initiated. I remained in that part for over 12 years of my life, where I was actively participating, in a Coven and working magic with them. They were very close.
So what made you want to do the switch between the solitary to actually getting involved with the Coven? What made you want to make the change?
From very early on, I wanted to be part of a Coven. The only thing is witchcraft is not as easy as picking up the phone book and looking for a Coven and saying, hey, I want to be part of you. It doesn't quite work that way. So even though it was something that I desired, as a matter of fact, it was one of the spells that I did, that I was working for, was that I wanted to be part of a group. And eventually I came across the right people in the right, timing, that I was invited to be part of a Coven. And then that's how I got into it. So it was something that I really wanted all along. It's just that it took some time to find it.
Now, I know here in Ohio and Texas, if you're not at a college campus, it is not something that is publicized. You can't find it in the phone book. You might be able to find it online, but based on the people I've been involved with, you can't just walk up to a Coven and say, hey, can I just join your group? They don't just let you join. So for you to be able to meet people and get involved with another group says how deep you were actually involved with this, and you weren't like some of these movies like The Craft and these other TV shows and things you hear about in the Halloween. You weren't just playing around with it. You made it not only a religion, but your relationship with how you wanted to do things. You made it an a lifestyle.
Right. It definitely was a lifestyle. And, you know, it was very much part of you know, your living and your breathing. You go about throughout the whole day. It was in every aspect of your life. And I think that's, you know, even kind of getting a little bit ahead of myself here, one of the harder things, and even walking away from it, was that it's everywhere. It's in everything. You know, it's outside. You go outside at night and you look at the moon. You go in the daytime and you look at the sun. You know, there's the trees and everything all around you speaks of it if you don't transform your mind back into the ways of God. So it's very easy to, you know, just walk through the day and to have, like, just breathe in every, like, aspect of some point of magic somewhere in the universe. It's everywhere. So it is definitely a, you know, a path that you tread on and you walk in. I was part of, you know, a group. I was part of a group who was a group that would be a recognized group because, you know, there's some, Wicca is like, it's large. There's some people who just basically practice on their own. They get a book off the shelf and they say, okay, I'm a witch. And most real witches don't really consider that you're a witch at that point in time. Then there's the groups who just kind of start sort of like that, and they're not really underneath like a mother coven with someone who's been initiated in the right lineage. And I was part of the coven who came under that. So I was right there in the midst of it all and remained there, like I said, for over 12 years, where I thought my life was, I thought I was content. I thought my life was good. You know, I thought I had control, and I thought things were going the way that I had hoped that they would. And there was a big drastic change in my life in the way that, you know, I went about things. All along I was thinking that they were all for the good. I never thought of it, you know, we didn't work bad magic. We worked good magic. And one of the misconceptions, you hear a lot of people say all the time, well, you know, white magic, black magic. Well, magic is magic, whether it's good or bad. It's all the same thing. It's just what your intent is and how you use it. So if you use bad magic, you know, if you use it for harm and for bad, then it's negative magic. But if you use it for good, it's considered positive magic. And we always worked on the positive side of things. So, you know, I thought it was okay and it was fine. And we were, after all, doing, you know, good people, doing good things for the environment, for one another, and for, you know, anyone who we may encounter along the way. We were looking at it that we were, you know, helping people along, helping the earth, and it was all for the good of all. And at being in that place, you're not thinking with the mindset of Christ. You know, there's like a process that I went through, kind of like a framing of the mind, and you let go of all of your former thinking, you know, all of your godly thinking. All the things that you've heard in Scripture are all, you know, they slowly kind of all go away. And you renew your mind with, you know, things in the ways of magic and in witchcraft, and start thinking a different way. So when people come up to you and they start talking to you and they tell you, you know, that you're in sin, well, in Wicca there is no sin.
Exactly.
You know, you go look at them like they have four eyes. Well, no, you know, you're saying it's sin because your God says that it's sin, but we don't believe in sin. You tell them that they're following Satan, and they don't believe that there is such a thing as Satan, except for in the minds of Christians. Mm-hmm. So then, you know, you didn't connect with them there either, because they're thinking in just a completely different place.
You're exactly
right.
Gods
and goddesses, but not, you know, Jesus. And they just recognize him as a prophet or a teacher. They don't usually call him unless there are some who are like Christian witches who kind of, you know, fall in between. You know, I have heard of those people trying to incorporate Jesus in, but for the most part, you know, Jesus is someone who is not incorporated, not called upon. It's other gods and goddesses that they worship.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.